All right. Let's talk about it. This is the medicine cabinet of Gypsy Rose Blanchard and her mother, Dee Dee Blanchard, when she committed her crime back in June of 2015. Shocking. Yes, shocking, right? You look at this and you're automatically going to assume that what they're telling you in interviews and documentaries and episodes of true crime TV shows, that this is Munchausen Syndrome by proxy. However, show me where she was diagnosed. Because you cannot diagnose somebody after they are gone and deceased, right? Show me where she was ever had an open CPS case. Show me where she was ever convicted in a criminal or a civil court for abuse or neglect on an adult or a child. Right, they can't. So put all of that aside. This is what is so misleading about interviews and documentaries. They can take a picture like this and they can sell you a story, a narrative, and make you believe it. But when you really look at this, how many mothers have children, especially if you have a child with health issues or a history, a complicated medical history where they have had lots of health issues? For example, 204 pages of medical records, and that's just a couple years. Gypsy is pretending to be a paraplegic from birth in a wheelchair. So says her medical records. Not only that, but that she has a cognitive impairment. I'm not going to say the other word, even though it is a scientific medical diagnosis and term, the R word. Yes, profound R is an actual diagnosis, but I'm not going to say that. It says currently studying at a second grade level. Isn't that what she said when she went to court and she actually pled guilty to second degree? Yeah. She has epilepsy, hypersalivation. She has hyperventilation, central. She also has asthma. Oh, history of current ear infections since birth. Tubes were placed twice. First set at 2 years of age, 3 years ago, again, T-tubes placed, which are blocked now and are coming out. Gypsy is having more ear infections. Ear was bleeding in February. Right ear, treated with antibiotics for infection. Right ear 1 month ago. She also had the excision of her submandibular glands for hypersalivation and a muscle biopsy, which is a test. She had a heart murmur at birth, but recently came in for evaluation and was told by cardiology that it was an innocent heart murmur. My son had one. Also, they said that he just grew out of it over the years. But right here, it says that she is claiming that her legs become tingly and she can't feel them. They become cold and blue, and that her left leg occasionally swells. She was born 4 weeks prematurely. She underwent dental rehab in April of this year, had 3 teeth pulled, 13 to 14 cavities were repaired. No problems with that anesthetic. And that's before she had 3 extractions and a couple more extractions and a couple more extractions, because they did not all happen at one time. And it's very misleading that also, because when you look at pictures of her, you see that she clearly has 4, 4, 3, and 4. That is 15 out of 28 adult teeth minus the 4 wisdom teeth, which makes 32. But that is 15 out of the 28 that they saved. They literally saved them by root canaling them and or crowning them. So she didn't go in and just have all of her teeth taken out at one time. This was something that happened years and years and years. And the pictures corroborate that. I've gone over it. Look at even her baby teeth. She's had to have multiple baby teeth taken out. She's had to have crowns on multiple baby teeth. And she also had, before she had all these extractions done, she had 3 extractions done on adult teeth, later had a couple more, and then later had more. And I also did an entire video about the hypersalivation. Gypsy did not go into a doctor's office and her mom put Orajel all over her gums and her teeth, and then boom, they set a surgery date, and then boom, she had her submandibular glands taken out. There was 4 things that happened prior to that. A whole array of things, and I show the medical records to prove it. She failed oral medication therapy. They also had a physical therapy that they had tried to calm down the hypersalivation. They also tried a form of therapy, physical therapy, and then they moved to Botox injections of the submandibular glands to try and paralyze them and calm them down, well before they went and actually removed them. And anybody that's had an array of surgeries like I have, over 13 of them in the last 7 years of my life, I can tell you right now that you don't just go to a doctor's office and they're like, oh, yep, you're going to have this surgery and here it is. It is a process. It is paperwork. It is having to set the dates and the times. It is coming in for the pre-op, post-op, all of it. But looking at this, you're going to be overwhelmed and you're going to think, oh my God, that's so many medications. Her mom must have had Munchausen syndrome by proxy. But most people are sheep. They're not going to ask the questions. Is this really true? It's on national television, so it's on the internet, so it must be true. I'm going to believe it. But when you actually look a little bit deeper below the surface, you'll see that most humans, most mothers, most families have a medicine cabinet that looks kind of something like this. Maybe quite not as well stocked. But then you notice there's acne pads, right? There's all of these over-the-counter Ludens, throat drops, not cough drops, throat drops. You see children's allergy medication. You see nasal spray. You see all the saline spray, patches, back patches. Over there is a mouthwash, over-the-counter mouthwash, prescription mouthwash that they give you when you have had teeth extracted, that you have to use that for several days afterwards. And that right there is 6 of them. Unopened, unused. So clearly Medicaid is paying for all this stuff. It's getting filled. They're getting it. And she's just stocking it up, meaning that Gypsy wasn't being forced to take this stuff or use this stuff or was actually being administered this stuff. But then you look over here, you see Miralax. I had cancer. I have to take this every single day just to make sure that my bowels are always running smoothly. And the reason why is because I had stage 3 cervical cancer. I had a radical hysterectomy, a total pelvic lymphadenectomy. I lost half of my vagina. So my bowels are not quite how they used to be when I had all of my intimate organs, but they were removed. So that is exactly what that is. It's just the bigger bottle and it's by prescription. And these can go anywhere from $20 to $27 for that large size bottle, if you pay for it over the counter. That is cough syrup, fish oil. Is that omega-3 fish oil over there? And then look down here. Here's all of Gypsy's asthma inhalers. She also got tretinoin prescribed for her acne. She had acne clearly because her mother was buying her those acne pads to use. And then you look at the bottom, you see a sitz bath. You see all of these other like linens, towels, a lot of plastic, like maybe gloves, stuff like that. You also see athlete's foot powder, which, you know, everybody gets at some point or another, a yeast infection. It's essentially like a yeast infection where you can get it in your groin, where your skin touches your skin. A lot of women get them under here or under here, especially if you live in a hot and humid area. So that's powder. That's another nasal spray. So really, and that right there is mineral oil, which is also another stool softener laxative. So very misleading. Lots of powder too, down at the very bottom. But like the sitz bath, hospital gowns, like those look like gloves, plastic, all of that. But here is the kicker. While Gypsy had a feeding tube, she was eating solid foods all of the time. However, she had to have preferred liquid medications. Or Dee Dee thought it was easier for her to have liquid medications, which I know some adults that still cannot swallow any kind of capsule or tablet. Did you know that a feeding tube can be placed for acid reflux, which Gypsy really did have? Acid reflux can be so bad that people like Gypsy Blanchard could be on a documentary with Fancy Maselli literally saying that Dee Dee once told me
the
that
acid
she had
reflux
a
I got
surgery
so
where they had to
bad
take a
that
piece
they
of
had
her
to
stomach
take
lining and
some
wrap
of
it
her
around her
stomach
esophagus
lining
because
and
her
wrap
acid
it
reflux
around
was
her
that
esophagus.
bad enough to put a feeding tube in after that. But go ahead and take a closer look. You see that bottle right there on the top in the middle? That right there says Gypsy Rose Blanchard. That is a prescription for acyclovir. Valtrex, or elcyclovir, is a form of Valtrex, and what she had is for herpes simplex virus, and as you can see, it is for an STD.